I think another skill that's really important is to soft next. So to,
Yeah.
to pull back on your time and affection when there's behaviors being shown that aren't what you really want from her. It's going to happen because everyone is human.
Mhm.
Shit tests are not intentional. Everyone is ultimately a little kid inside. And women, like everyone else, will test you like a kid would test you.
Mm.
And sometimes you have to be able to say, I don't like that. Don't do that
Yeah.
again. And to gauge her response and to vet her on that, and not to invest any more emotionally.
Man, wow. Beautifully said. I mean, that's spot on, mate. I had a breakup recently, and
Oh,
I,
sorry to
I,
hear
I
that.
oh, thanks, Ben. It's been a process, like kind of working through it. Proud to say I did exactly what you said. Like I saw the behavior, I brought it up. There was no attempt for resolve or to really communicate, the issue or the situation. And so I stepped back immediately, and I said, okay, that's it. And
Mhm.
I really liked her, and she was an avoidant. So coming full circle here, like, she was very good at, I felt very loved by her at times, and other times very not loved. And so I was stuck in that cycle. And so the withdrawal period has been a bit painful, to be honest. So I'm doing it like, just like you said, it's time to go inwards. Like I'm taking time to really be with myself, kind of step away from sort of vices like food or like maybe watching TV too much, and really learning to like reconnect with myself. So I think that's, a great solution to this. It taught me a lot about needing to step away and do that soft next earlier, because I think what we see in a lot of guys, and I've done this myself, is we do repeat those patterns, and allowing that behavior to go on longer than it needs to is where, I think we've all experienced that pain. When is your gauge onto like hope? Not hope, but like, I'm seeing these behaviors. I don't like it. I need to walk away. What was that process of learning how to do that for yourself?
I don't know if I have a crystallized system,
Mm.
but I am very committed to being true to myself, so that
Mm.
if there's something I'm feeling and it is rationally true with evidence, obviously we have a lot of things that you might feel, but they aren't necessarily true. But if I feel it, I can see plainly that this is not just some random thought passing through my head that I'm overly attached to, but something that's actually real. I would not treat another person like this, and I wouldn't want someone to treat me like this. I speak up about it.
Mm.
And if it keeps happening, there's no genuine attempt to change behavior, then
Yeah.
if it's something that's actually serious and not something that you would want to live with, then it's better to walk away.
Guys, if you can take one thing away from up to this point in the podcast, would be to learn to walk away. It's not easy, it's difficult, but it will transform your life, because you start to respect yourself more. And it's a weird, like magnetic, I wouldn't say weird, it makes a lot of sense once you experience it, but you start to put that energy out that like, I don't tolerate this behavior. So you start to just attract people. And like the whole law of attraction topic, that's like a whole hour talk on whether that's real or not. But you do start to not attract those kind of people anymore. Right. And not that they're evil people or, something's wrong with them. They're just not in alignment with, becoming, I think, your best self, or for you guys watching, like what you want from a feminine woman as a masculine man. So now you said something about the key is to kind of move on as quick as possible, right? Do that soft next.
Well, I don't know if it's as quick as possible, but because something that I also don't think is healthy is just jumping from girl to girl without any sort
Mm,
of inner healing, because
okay.
you're just going to repeat the same patterns.
Man.
So I would
Yeah.
say to not waste your time and energy,
Okay.
like to do that as soon as possible. As soon as you're sure that it's not a good deal for you, to
Yep.
cut your losses and just say, I'm not going to invest any more time into this.
Okay. That's a more holistic approach, I think, wording to
Yeah,
that.
because like Dr. Robert Glover, who wrote the book No More Mr. Nice Guy, he said in that book, the opposite of crazy is still crazy. And that's something that
Mm,
I have seen so much in my own life, that when I look at a dysfunctional behavior or dysfunctional thought pattern in myself, if I just take the opposite, it doesn't necessarily get me to a healthier place. Like, is someone who's began really anxious, the solution is not to suddenly be like, well, I'm just going to treat girls like crap, and I'm not going
Right.
to care about her at all, because then you just lose all your emotional connection, and you just can't give that side of you for her to actually attach to and be attracted to. So
Mhm.
what you need to do is find the healthy way in the middle, and it's a process. It takes time, it takes experimentation. It's nuanced as opposed to reactionary.
Okay. Yeah, and in no way, guys, I'm advocating as well to like get out of a 10-year relationship and just go start, sleeping around. So thank you for clarifying that. Like, yeah, I agree. Like finding that balance, finding that way where you can be firm, but you're not being a dick, because I think many people fall into that. I have myself, we oscillate from nice guy to asshole to nice guy to asshole. And I think through that process, we kind of end up finding that middle ground where we can be firm and direct with our boundaries, and we're not being a pushover anymore. Yet we
Hmm.
can still be caring and kind, and you know do the things that attract another person and allow them to, I guess you could say, fall in love with us, because we're being what you should be in a good relationship. Because I mean, both Jaron and I, we stopped watching the whole RP content, right? Because I think that's too far on like the being an alpha side. Like you got to be a man all the time and always stoic and always, and this, like, those guys, like, to me seem a bit neurotic. And I like, where you can actually laugh and like have a good time and be vulnerable in a strong way, right? I think you hear that word vulnerable and I cringe saying it, right? Because it's such a word that gets thrown around. When I think of vulnerable, I think being able to be, like you said, be your authentic self
Hmm.
as you choose when you want. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I actually think when moving from nice guy to more centered, everything feels like you're being an asshole.
Dude.
Like it just, the first part of like standing up for yourself, like ending my marriage
Mhm.
was like it felt like the most horrible thing I've ever done in my life, because I had promised my life to this woman, and I'd been giving her my life for 7 years without anything back from it.
Mhm.
But I had such moral trauma about this, because I was betraying my word, like, and I was being an asshole then. It was like, I think some of the old red pill forums referred to ending dysfunctional marriages shooting the puppy, because this thing
Yeah.
that you treasured, that was full of life, and you're ending it. And
Yeah.
I think the perception of what is just normal boundaries to someone who was a simp or a nice guy is,
Mhm.
it's going to look like being an asshole. But it's just different. It's just a, a way of being in the world that you haven't got used to. But I think
Mhm.
what in that process, it's important to remember that you can look and see what are the effects on other people. Yes, if you end a relationship, someone might be upset, but ultimately you might be giving them the chance to get more happiness in the future with someone
Mhm.
else, someone who is a better match for them. So just because there is some things in it that upset someone, it doesn't mean it's 100% bad. Again, this is, I'm not advocating going around like promising a woman a relationship then ghosting her like that. That is asshole behavior, which I do not condone. And I think men who do that are despicable. But uh, you don't have to sugarcoat everything and protect everyone's
Yeah.
emotions.
Especially after 7 years of no affection or intimacy or love or connection. That's, I think, a very fair time to say, okay, no more. And it's scary. I love that analogy. Like you're shooting the puppy, like, because as soon as, at least for what I found, is when I break up with somebody, in a week or so, I start to remember all the good parts about them. Like, oh man, they
Mhm.
were so sweet in this moment. So I think it's really important to remember why you did in the beginning. And I think some of that assholeness feeling comes from because there's anger underneath. And like,
Mhm.
as a nice guy, we don't like to feel anger. We like to feel happiness and love and all the feel good emotions. So anger is not a comfortable emotion, as for me to feel like it. So standing up for yourself and beginning that process can be uncomfortable, and especially because when you do it to people that have seen you behave a certain way for so long, they almost get a reaction too. They're like, "Wait, what the heck is it? Like, what? This isn't the Chris I know. This isn't Joel, the the loving, sweet, always like will do what I want guy. So they get a reaction. They're like, "Oh fuck, did like I screw up the dynamic? Is something wrong?" And it's like, no, this is you having boundaries and like standing up for yourself, which is a great behavior to have in the beginning of the relationship because then you don't get to the point where you're having to, rock the boat to say.
Absolutely.
Fascinating stuff, man. I love talking about this. Guys, yeah, comment down below if you can have any experience with this, if you can understand what we're talking about. I think it takes getting your heart ripped out a few times before starting to see these patterns. But as we say, we have a video on this channel that every guy needs to get scars on their heart. My personal mentor, he tells me this. He's like, when I started my day game journey, which we're going to get into in a little bit here, he kind of warned me. He's like, hey, man, like, yeah, just get ready to get your heart stomped on a few times. And over the next 4 to 5 years, and it's going to make you such a valuable human. And I was like, that probably won't be me. Like maybe you had to go through that. And now I'm like heartbreak number like 4. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's this is part of the game.